It's the Lee and Ian Show, starting now. Good day to Ian Grodman.
Hey, Lee Navlin, how are you?
I'm good, Ian. I'm very good. And for those listening out there, this is our second podcast together. Ian, here's what I think we need. I think at the top we need some type of jingle. We need some type of identifier.
Jingle.
Yeah, because right now I'm like, hey, I'm Lee and you're Ian.
I like
and
that.
and that's great. Everyone's like, yeah, great. You guys are Lee and Ian. But I was thinking a jingle, maybe just some type of little song. So I'm trying to. So I was thinking maybe Lee and Ian on the air. Turn them on and try them. Nothing can get by them. Lee and Ian.
Wow, you already wrote this.
Well, that's actually from Mike and the Mad Dog from many years ago.
There we
Remember
go.
WFAN? But so not on the air anymore. I thought perhaps we could use it, but I'll have to check with legal. See,
Okay,
so you're legal. So you being legal.
Okay. I'll call my advisors and we'll talk about it.
That's right.
Yes.
But I think a jingle might help us out a little bit. But we had our pilot podcast. It went well. People are listening. People seem to like us. That's good. We're going to build this. Again, our focus is New Jersey politics, Ian, right? I think, right? I think we want
pretty much New Jersey, Maplewood, South Orange, expanding out to Essex County and statewide.
Right, Newark, right. Wherever there's news, wherever there's something happening, we have the gubernatorial elections coming up in November. We really plan to cover those. And, but we want to talk to our assembly people. We want to talk to our mayors in Essex County. We want to talk to everybody who, is involved in making this the best, I think, one of the best places in the world to live, Essex County, New Jersey.
It absolutely is. And I've started speaking with some of these people, and we've got some people lined up to come on in the next couple of weeks.
All right, that's awesome. Yeah. So that's what we're going to be doing. So again, thanks for tuning in. Thanks for listening. We promise that we'll make this an interesting podcast. Sans fart jokes. We're not. I don't think I did a previous podcast.
No fart jokes?
Yeah, they were fart jokes, and I thought they were great. But my wife, she said, if you're going to do a podcast with Ian Grodman, legal scholar, by the way, legal scholar.
Legal scholar.
Yeah, Ian Grodman.
Yeah, that's me.
Yeah, she's like, avoid the fart jokes. And
yeah.
And I don't think your wife Lisa likes the fart jokes.
You will offend my scholarly sensibilities.
That's right. That's right. In the family, I don't want to upset any Grodmans.
The Grodman family loves fart jokes.
All right. Well, all right. So maybe. All right. So pull my finger, Ian.
Okay. But I'm bump.
So Ian, I wanted to talk a little bit about what went down last week. By the way, this is Monday morning. What went down last week with ICE, the ICE raids in Newark, New York. Ross Baraka had something to say about it. He made a statement, amongst others.
Many of our statewide elected officials are really speaking up and demanding some answers about all of this.
So I want to talk a little bit, but before we get to that, something just broke this weekend. It was in South Orange, New Jersey.
Yep. Yesterday.
It was yesterday, actually, yes. And Sheena Column actually, I happened to just be online yesterday, and I started to see some of my Jewish friends and neighbors started to talk about an incident at a synagogue in South Orange. Mm-hmm. Not going to mention the name of the synagogue. I'm not sure it matters. There's a few synagogues there, but
3 synagogues in
South Orange. Yeah, one of them was a scene of a very ugly situation. So what Sheena basically wrote, she wrote, "Dear neighbors, with heavy." By the way, Sheena Column is the South Orange mayor.
That's right.
A friend of yours, right? A friend of yours.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah. I know Sheena too. I'm not sure she would consider me a friend, but
Sheena is everybody's friend.
Yeah. But when she sees me, she recognizes me. She'll snap her fingers and point, and go, "You, that guy." So I'm that guy. But what she wrote was, and I really appreciated her message. She said, "Dear neighbors, it was with heavy heart that I share an unsettling incident that occurred earlier today. A group of protesters gathered outside one of our local synagogues, and along with chants." Which she wrote, protected by the First Amendment, individuals within the group took it a step further and trespassed onto private property. They defaced the driveway with a hateful message, specifically terrorists this way, along with an arrow pointing towards the synagogue. So this act of intolerance is deeply disturbing, has no place in our community. The South Orange Police Department, along with Essex County Prosecutor's Office, Special Victims Unit, is investigating this matter. It's being treated as a biased crime. Pretty serious thing. So
very serious.
Yeah. My understanding, and again, these are some witnesses, or alleged witnesses, or whatever you want to call them. They said that they were blocking driveways, they were yelling at parents picking up children. Now, she says it's constitutionally protected language as far as being able to, I guess, stand on a sidewalk and say what you want.
Right. So that's correct, right? Mm-hmm. Apparently, I don't know all the facts of this. I know what I read online over the course of the last 24 hours.
It's same here.
Apparently, there were a group of protesters protesting at one of the local synagogues on a Sunday morning at a time when children were going to Sunday school. I don't believe there was anything else going on at the temple at that time other than children attending Sunday school. Apparently, a group of protesters who were protesting about what has been going on in the treatment of Palestinians in Gaza were there, shouting, pretty horrible things at children and their parents going in and out of the synagogue.
Yeah.
Apparently, they crossed the line and started defacing property with, I guess some pretty awful epithets. Again, I don't know exactly what was said or done.
Right.
But that's really crossing the line. That's trespassing. That's, defacing property. And again, free speech only goes so well. Free speech is free speech, right? But I think that choices need to be made about using free speech when it impacts children and might be harmful to children. I think that one of the things that we often see is that people are not separating the actions of the Israeli government from Jewish people generally. And I think that's really what the heart of what the problem was yesterday.
Yeah, so that's interesting. So perhaps an Essex County prosecutor who might say, hey, you were yelling, go home Jews or fuck you Jews or whatever it is you're yelling, and you did it in front of children, might there be, I don't know, some type of criminal behavior, behaving in front of minors. Is that different than,
I don't think that there is any, I'm not sure.
Yeah.
I don't know if there's any criminal action that could be brought because these shouts and these protests were taking place in front of children. I think more than anything else, it's just really bad form, to involve children in this kind of activity. If you want to chastise people at the temple, that might be a different story. But these young kids going to Sunday school.
Sometimes you need to know, right, when to do what you want to do and when not to do what you want to do.
I think you're right.
Now, my understanding, and I just read something just this morning. Actually, someone had posted on Sheena's wall that there was. It was some type of event there, apparently, where there might have been some IDF soldiers that were going to be speaking, but apparently these IDF soldiers were more young people that were more involved in the rescue and recovery aftermath, not so much fighters. But so I don't know, but so I think that's what the argument moving forward you might hear. You're not hearing it now because I think 9 out of 10 people on Sheena's wall. By the way, some 400 comments.
Wow.
Or 400 likes, I should say, and. 90% of them are in support of the Jewish community or Jews themselves. You do have a few that...
And the Maplewood Township Committee has spoken out against this as well. All members of the Maplewood Township Committee signed off on a statement that Mayor Nancy Adams posted last night also.
I saw that. I saw Garnet Hall also had something to say, Assemblywoman Garnet Hall. And also the Assemblywoman... Rosie Begoli from Livingston, yeah, I guess who was Jewish herself. I guess she really had a lot to say about it.
Good. I didn't realize that.
Yeah. So and Matthew Gerwitz, who is the rabbi at B'nai Jesuin in which is going up South Orange Avenue. It's that big, huge synagogue
in Livingston.
In Livingston. Yeah, he really had a lot to say about it, and he really is calling the local officials to task and saying, hey, this has been going on for too long. I don't want to paraphrase what he said. I'm looking to see if I have...
think it's especially important. Today is the 80th anniversary of the liberation of Auschwitz.
Right? Wow, yeah, that's right. That's
and
right.
So
timing
all of
again.
This happening at this time.
Yeah. So Matthew Gerwitz, the rabbi, he wrote on Sheena's wall, can I just say that with all of the talk of safe space nowadays, as a resident of Soma, that's South Orange May, but not as a rabbi, that Soma is officially not a safe space for Jews. We are not going anywhere and will ensure that this is indeed the place which so many of us will continue to live, so forth. So that's a Jewish leader. So I think Soma's got a problem. They got a big problem on their hands. I think the community is being, I don't know if he's already exposed, but I think the Jewish people there don't feel that maybe that they have the support of local government. I'm not sure, but
Well, all of our local elected officials have spoken out against this, at least in Maplewood.
right.
Mayor Sheena Coleman did in South Orange.
That's right. Yes. Yes.
You know, and again, I think a lot of this comes down to, in my opinion, a lot of this comes down to people not being able to separate the actions of the Israeli government
Yeah.
and the Jewish people generally.
And
right?
ultimately, that's what it comes down to, right? It comes down to, right. I mean, if the Irish government does something you don't like, are you going to take it out on the Irish Americans?
Right. Exactly.
You know, that's.
But I think also we have to be mindful of the fact that very often there's, you know, and I consider myself to be half Jewish.
Okay, all right.
Very mindful of the fact that many Jewish people have a visceral reaction whenever there's any talk about any kind of injustice towards the Palestinian people, that people often feel that that's directed towards Jewish people generally. And it doesn't necessarily have to be, right? It's really the Israeli government that's at fault here.
Yeah. Well, Hamas.
And Hamas, exactly, both. I mean, Hamas is...
Right. There is a war that's been going on there for decades.
Yep.
And, you know, and it goes before Hamas was elected. I mean, Yasser Arafat, and it goes... I mean, this is... You know, and you know, look, I have my opinions in the Middle East. You know, I tend to feel that Israel, once upon a time, before Netanyahu wanted peace, there was Clinton had a deal on the table.
Yep.
Palestinians walked away. You know,
well, you know, Lee, I'm a mediator, right? We always talk in mediation about win-win situations, right? Mm-hmm. What's going on in Gaza, what's been going on in Gaza for the last year, it's a lose-lose situation. Nobody can win there.
No.
It was time to bring an end to this. I hope what's going on right now sticks.
Yeah, 100%.
And that this is the end and the beginning of rebuilding.
Yeah, you're right. Look, you know, bottom line is Israel may win the war. They're not going to win the PR war.
Nope.
The world has spoken out against this, and you know it's a terrible situation. It's awful, and it's trickling out into little kids here in New Jersey at Temple to have some fun with their friends.
I know you wanted to talk about Maplewood and South Orange and what happened here. So sorry to get distracted.
No, that's look, because the whole thing, right? It's a big world, and all of a sudden, you know,
and we're part of it.
Weird, crazy, insane stuff that a local moron might think is okay to say in front of a group of kids. But anyway,
right.
You know, it's very frustrating, and it's a shame because yesterday also was they had a big event in Maplewood yesterday. Nancy Adams, Lunarfest. Yeah, Nancy Adams was on national TV, I believe. I think Sheena might have been. Yeah, I caught both of them. I think Nancy actually ran in front of the camera when the reporter was doing a.
No, Nancy is not a camera hog, as some elected officials can be. Nancy is not that at all.
No, but I think it was like a live shot. I'm the mayor of Maplewood. Hello, you know, welcome. But anyway, I joke, of course, but it was a very funny hit, actually. Nancy being Nancy, you know, very. If I know Nancy, you know Nancy.
Yep.
Maplewood mayor, very funny woman. One of the funniest people I've ever met.
She's
actually
great.
Yeah, smart, brilliant, funny. And when she sees a TV camera,
that's what you're supposed to do when you're an elected official.
That's right. Yes. So, but it's a shame because that was a big deal yesterday. And the community was celebrating this wonderful day, and you know, and then down the street you have something as ugly as this.
Right. So, yeah, you're right. It was right down the street.
Yeah. Well, the Essex County Prosecutor's Office is now involved. So, okay. Well, you know, God willing, we can all live in peace together. This war comes to an end. The Palestinian people can live in peace. The Israeli people, and we can bigger and better.
Right.
Days ahead.
I mean, hopefully, you know, people have the right to protest, right? Just to speak about what their opinions are. But hopefully people will be a little bit smarter about where and when they do that. Be mindful of the fact that, you know, these things can be scarring for young children. Yeah. To me, that was the biggest issue of yesterday. And then also the property at this temple was defaced by the people who were protesting. That's where the criminal action may lie.
Right. That's where they're right. That's where you blew it, guys. You could stand there and on the sidewalk. You have a right to do it. You don't have a right. Whoever crossed that line. They're going to be exposed. They're going to be arrested. They're going to be prosecuted, and rightfully so. And hopefully, you know, they throw the book at you. You know,
let's hope so.
Yeah. Not here. ICE. Want to talk a little bit about ICE?
Yes, let's talk about ICE.
Okay, let's talk a little bit about ICE. Now, again, for those of you unfamiliar, Ian is a lawyer. He's an immigration attorney. that's something that's in
one
your
of my
wheelhouse.
areas, yep.
Right. It's not my wheelhouse. What I know about immigration, I know. My
You learned a little on our last episode.
Right. My great grandfather, Ellis Island. He got in, and that's basically that's as close as I've ever.
Ellis Island, if you were able to show that you were not physically or mentally disabled, you were entering the United States legally.
Right, yeah.
So anybody could.
And that's how it was back in the day. And things are a little different today.
Very different. Absolutely. Very different indeed.
Now, so basically Baraka, okay, he came out with a statement that basically said ICE agents were on the ground in Newark last week. I believe it was Thursday or Friday.
Correct.
Some arrests were being made, including a U.S. vet was picked up, veteran was picked up, and eventually
United
released.
States citizen.
Yeah, United States citizen. He was picked up. He was able to prove, obviously. Now Trump ran saying, "Hey, America, vote for me. We're going to have mass deportations. We're going to get rid of this element, these illegal immigrants, these criminals are going to." He ran on this. He won on this. He's following through on a pledge, you might say, on a promise to the people who elected him, which the majority of Americans did.
He's following through on his fomenting hate of people from other countries. That's true.
Right now. Now Holman, he's the border czar.
Correct.
The guy's like John Wayne, or he's got this John Wayne appeal to him. I guess he's a criminal. He's got to go. Get out.
Shock and awe.
Yes. Right. Throwing them all out. Now, is Trump going to be able to just continue doing this? Is there any way the courts can stop him? Could the state stop him? I guess can Essex County.
So, I mean, there's a couple of different things to think about here. There's the legal aspect, right? So Immigration and Customs Enforcement, that's ICE. They do have the right to obtain warrants and go searching for people who may be here without documentation, who may be out of legal status here in the United States. In this situation, what happened was ICE went into a fish processing plant, I guess it is, in Newark, in the Ironbound section in Newark, where a lot of immigrants live, particularly from Brazil and Portugal in the Ironbound section. And they went in there. I don't know if there were warrants. I don't know if the proper paperwork was there. However, the ICE officers who were there detained United States citizens. They detained a United States citizen who is a military veteran. This is the problem that we have here, right? Because somebody looks like they may be an immigrant from another country, right? That does not give you the right to hold them, to detain them, to require them to provide proper documentation to demonstrate their United States citizenship. That's a path that we do not want to go down in this country, and that's the way it seems to me that Trump is trying to do this.
So, what do you think of? There have to be illegal immigrants from Eastern Europe and from Western Europe, I would imagine, other parts of India, other parts of the world. Are they just looking for Latinas right now? Are they just looking for Mexicans? Are they just?
That's what it seems like to me, right? And again, nobody's illegal. People are undocumented, right? People are not here in legal status, but no human being should be referred to as illegal. Every human being has a legal right to exist, right? So if they're undocumented or not in correct immigration status, that's another story. We can talk about that. Those are the 11, 12, 13 million people in this country doing those jobs more often than not than nobody else wants to do. I don't think you're going to get a lot of American-born citizens wanting to work in a fish processing plant.
Right, yeah. And again, it comes down to some of which we talked about last week, so many of these immigrants, they come here and they take the lowest level job that Americans will. If I was at a gas station not too long ago, I'm friendly with the guy who owns the gas station, and chatting with him, and I said, "Gee, you're pumping gas today. What's going on? 0 degrees out, And so he says he's having trouble retaining workers, and I said, "Well, yeah, what's going on?" He said, "Honestly, I don't pay a lot, just to pump gas, but I do need people to do it." And he said basically, he says he can't get citizens to do it.
Right.
he just whatever he wants an American citizen to do it. He wants to protect his business. So he kind of said that nobody wants to do this type of work.
Yeah.
Of course, I could have said to what about illegals? Have you ever thought about hiring?
Right.
Right.
Well, very often that happens in gas stations.
Right. But anyways, but he did say for the $12 an hour job or whatever it is, unless it's a teenager looking for some extra spending money after school, he's not getting.
But they don't even want those jobs. So the perfect example, a couple of years ago in North Carolina, there's a program where there's like some kind of like farmers cooperative organization that helps to find people to work on farms. During picking season. In North Carolina. Several years back, there was a farmer in North Carolina who went to the state agencies that supply people to do work. They needed 245 workers to work on the farm during the picking season, right? Through unemployment, they were referred 245 people. They hired all of them, right? Because there's a great need for it. Only 163 people showed up on the first day. And by the end of the growing season, which I don't know, was 8, 10, 12 weeks later, only 7 of those people were left. American-born citizens do not want to do these jobs.
Right. Yeah. So, I mean, the argument is made that the economy is going to falter, prices are going to go up, the price of food is going to go up.
It will go up.
Because we're not going to have
you think eggs are expensive now? Just wait.
Because migrant workers. Now, and I've discussed this with people on both sides of the argument. There are those that say this is Biden's fault. He opened the floodgates. Too many came in. Trump had an excuse to run for office on this promise that he was going to get rid of Biden's screw. Did Biden go too far in opening the floodgates and allowing too many people to come into this country, giving Republicans an excuse to throw them out of here? And now they're throwing them out. I mean, what are your thoughts? What do I say to my Republican friend that gives me that argument?
Right. Well, first of all, Biden did not open the floodgates, right? That's not the case. What was going on in Central and South America led a lot more people to come to the United States seeking asylum. There are countries where violence is in the streets all the time. There is no opportunity to work and to make a living, and that's what was leading to people coming to this country. You cannot, well, although Trump claims that he can, you cannot patrol however many mile border, 1,500, 2,000 mile border between the United States and Mexico. And by the way, a lot of people come into Canada as well. People ignore that fact because people are, I guess,
not so afraid of Canadians.
Exactly, right. Or maybe Europeans who might come in across the border from Canada.
Right.
That's not the case. I can't tell you how many, very often it boils down to also getting to know who these people are. I've had 2 people in the last couple of years work in certain trades, right? Bringing in somebody who is here without documentation because they've asked me to try to help them to get their green cards, to help them to legalize, right?
Yeah.
Meanwhile, while they're asking me to try to help legalize their undocumented immigrant, they're complaining to me about Biden opening the borders to everybody, like letting the floodgates open, like you're saying. Right. It's not what the case is. These are all people, almost all of these people are incredibly hardworking, doing jobs that most United States citizens do not want to do. Those are the people who are coming here. The economy is going to suffer dramatically if Trump goes through trying to deport 11 million people, which, by the way, is going to cost billions and billions of dollars.
Yeah. We're not going to find that money to do it. So that's I think when this thing kind of starts to peter out and very slowly Trump gets mad at Holman for being a media whore, and
he's going to get mad at everybody,
and he's going to get mad at Holman, and then I think Holman's going to be. And so that's what I predict slowly but surely. This is not going to be front page news,
right?
Because he'll start wars with other areas of his administration, but the argument being made that these are the bad guys being yanked out of here now. This is not your nanny. This is not your your babysitter. This is the guy bringing drugs in. This is the guy in the gang. This is the guy with a criminal record that goes back decades. And
I mean, there are people here who are criminals, right? And I'm not opposed to deporting those people. If you look at the records and you look back over the years, the greatest number of deportations in modern history from the United States were while Barack Obama was the president, right? Because Barack Obama had a targeted enforcement effort to rout out the people who were being convicted of crimes.
Right.
and deported those people. And that was the largest amount of people that have been deported from the United States during modern history.
Yeah, more so than when Trump was president.
Exactly.
Yeah. That's now was that because he was there for 8 years versus 4? Or
No.
is it just statistically?
Well, I would like to believe it's because Barack Obama wanted to fix the immigration system and felt that he would have a better chance of doing it by removing those who were in fact criminals.
Right. Now, how come? What was the problem with the wall? Now, Trump's ran and he said, "I'm going to build a wall." Obviously, he said ridiculously that they're going to
Mexico's going to pay for it
and all that stuff. Was the wall ultimately? What do you think? You think there should be a wall there? Will that help? Because some people argue the wall doesn't stop anybody.
It doesn't stop people, right? People climb over. People find ways to get through it. Again, we're talking about a 1,500, 2,000-mile border, basically in the desert.
Yeah.
I mean, you can't.
How big can this? They'll go that way 1,000 miles.
That's right.
And come around that way.
And more often than there's a lot of people that come across the border that way, but there's a lot of people who enter the United States and overstay visas.
Right.
And that's actually probably the majority of people who are here without proper documentation at this point.
Yeah. I
can't deny access to people from all over the world because you're afraid of what they look like, right?
Yeah, so you don't feel that maybe our immigration laws are archaic at this point?
Our immigration laws are very archaic, and the immigration system needs to be fixed. I think I told you about in the last episode where we talked that, when I started doing immigration work, you could do immigration cases and people would be able to get their green cards and legalize, sometimes in as little as like 4 to 6 months. Right now, it takes years because the system is so overwhelmed.
Yeah, that's
and no resources going to it.
Yeah, so now I guess Trump just made the news yesterday because he was fighting all day with the president of Colombia. I'm going to raise tariffs, and you're going to take these people back. I guess they cut a deal at the end of the day.
Somehow the president of Colombia capitulated. I guess they're concerned about tariffs on coffee.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I guess that's ultimately what it was. Which we just had a nice cup of Colombian coffee this morning, you and I, by the way.
Very good, thank you.
Yeah. But
you make a nice cappuccino, Lee.
Thank you very much. Yes, it's a machine. It's 2 buttons. You just got to follow the directions.
All right. I'm not always great at following directions, so thank you.
You're basically right. It says you put the milk in. And if you don't put the milk in at that point, it won't make it right.
There we go. There we go.
Well, you put a coffee packet instead of a milk packet.
You did a great job.
But, so it's a victory for Trump, I guess, a short-term victory that he got a couple military aircraft. But by the way, that's a good question for you. Military aircraft, using them, the military for immigration. Is this legal? I mean, constitutionally, are we allowed to use our military to round up suspected illegal immigrants? And
I know you've called me a legal scholar, Lee, but I don't know the answer.
Yeah, so that's the next thing, which but I guess look. Who's going to stop him at this point? Supreme Court's not going to stop him.
That's it, right? I did read something that apparently the cost for using military aircraft is, multiples more expensive than using private aircraft that might be retained and paid for by the United States government.
Yeah. See, I'm so mixed on this because part of me, I consider myself a hard ass. You came here, you didn't follow the rules. She came here legally. She did all what she was required to. You just showed up, by crossing a border or however you got here. You got on it, but you didn't leave. But
you showed up and took that job that nobody else would take.
And there's my flip side.
And you paid taxes.
Right. And there's where I'm a softie. And there's where I'm a bullshit artist. Because I'm like,
because it's being human.
Yeah. I try to be like, hey, how dare you? But then, when I see the woman sweeping a floor, and I'm like, my God, she is doing something I hope I never have to do. I don't want my children to ever have to do, and I don't want my grandchildren to ever have to do that job. But there she is, and she smiles. She says hello.
And she pays her taxes.
And she pays her taxes, and she just hopes to God I'm not a guy with handcuffs coming to take her away.
That's right. I mean, these people live in constant fear of that, and trust me, that fear has increased dramatically in the last week.
Yeah. So
I've gotten more calls in the last week than I've gotten all year.
Yeah. Have you really?
Yes.
Yeah. And is it from the clients that you've helped them get their paperwork?
So many of the people calling are clients that I've worked with previously who are just concerned about what's going to happen next. Could they be, as a green card holder, a permanent resident in the United States, could they be in trouble?
Yep.
With the new president, right? A lot of people have the necessary fact situation in their life that would enable them to apply for a green card. They just haven't gotten around to doing it, right?
Yeah.
Like for all of us, like inertia is a big thing. What's happened in the last week has gotten a lot of people to come forward and say, like, I've got to apply for my green card now. Like, I've got everything lined up and I'm ready to go.
Yeah. So, by the way, Grodman Law and Mediation, that's your practice.
That's my practice.
So for those out there that are listening, if this is a problem that you're dealing with, you should reach out to Ian. Ian, how do they reach you?
They can reach out to me at iangrodman@gmail.com or my office number 973-313-2424.
Okay, 313-2424-973. All right. And
Thank
so
you.
if you have a nanny working for you, you have a worker, you have a business, small business, whatever it is, not a bad idea.
And sometimes nanny situations are very difficult because that's probably in Maplewood and South Orange. That's the most calls that I get is people wanting to help their nannies.
Right, sure.
More often than not, there's not a lot that can be done.
Right. So this podcast, again, sponsored by Grodman Law and Mediation, right? If you need a good lawyer to help you get out of a fix.
And mediator.
That's right. Now, mediation, by the way. So that's very interesting. A friend of mine a couple years ago, probably 10 years ago, right? I'm not going to mention her name. You helped her with her situation when she got divorced, and it was ugly, and they were fighting, and there was some bad shit going on. I said, hey, why don't you talk to my friend Ian? He's a mediator. I didn't know much about it at the time, but it was a very soft landing. You created a very soft landing for them. Kids are wonderful. They kids. Very happy. There was no animosity at the end. They just, whatever it was mediation did, it worked because, again, this was looking like it was going to be, War of the Roses,
right.
And it wasn't. So what is mediation? Talk a little bit about mediation. Let's take
So mediation is a way to resolve a conflict or a dispute in as collaborative a manner as possible, right? Without litigation, right? So in the divorce context, like your friends, and most of the mediations I do are for people who are getting divorced, people who have post-divorce issues, people who have other family-related issues. Very often people come in, they bring in all of the information about their family, right? About their finances. We go through it all and we come up with a plan for them that's going to be legally acceptable to a court that will finalize their divorce for them, right? It saves people literally tens and sometimes even hundreds of thousands of dollars to get divorced in that way. A lot of times people will say to me, are you sure you're not a therapist, Ian? Like, I'm not a therapist, right? But I think I am good at creating an atmosphere where we can get people talking. More important than anything else is get people listening to each other, right?
Yeah.
If people listen to each other, most people have it in them to find a way to work together to resolve the problem rather than to go the litigation route.
Yeah.
And I'd say probably more than 90% of the people who come to me are able to finalize their divorce that way.
Yeah, sometimes it just takes a third party to just kind of say, hey, take a deep breath.
That's it.
Right, think about your kids, think about... think about
it's a little bit more complicated than that.
Yeah.
But you're right.
Yeah. Question for you while we're on this subject, going back to immigration.
Yes.
Once upon a time, you married somebody, you got your green card, and you could stay in America. Does that still exist today? I mean,
It does exist, but it's not as simple as just getting married, right? When you go to immigration with a marriage-based immigration case, immigration takes the position, this is a sham marriage, you have to convince us otherwise. That's really what the work is for a lawyer. I mean, but there are people who can do it without a lawyer.
Yeah.
But that's really what the work is for a lawyer in a family-related immigration case, is helping you to present your marriage in a way that's going to be acceptable to the immigration officials as a real marriage, in their book.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So right. So I married my nanny.
And that happens.
It happens. Of course, it happens.
Yeah.
But so I'm just spitballing out loud. Could if someone you love is in trouble, could you take that route right now?
No. I mean, one question that you might get in an interview is, I know you want to help this person out, right?
Right.
You never do it to help somebody. You do it because you are vested in having a relationship with that person.
Yeah, so you have,
now, those relationships could look all different ways,
Sure.
right? There's no typical marriage, right?
Yeah.
But there are certain things that immigration will look for in order to believe that it's a real marriage. And the most important thing is that your finances are tied in together.
Yeah, okay. All right, right, yeah. So it would take more than just being a thespian. You know, I'm a brilliant actor. Watch me go out there and convince them. Right, I love this woman, you know. Right,
and we are that too, right?
Right, yeah. That's right, yeah. You and I have both acted before together. We both won awards together before.
That's right,
It was a podcast called Goodstein, which is still online.
Web series,
yes.
podcast.
Yeah, I call podcast, a web series called Goodstein, yes. And we won about 15, 20 awards, somewhere in the neighborhood.
At the LA Web Series Festival and the Roma Web Fest.
Roma, that's right. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I was the lead. Ian was best supporting actor.
That's correct.
Yeah, I was the lead, and Ian, but yeah,
he was the lead and the director and the writer and producer.
That's right. Yes. Yeah. So for those of you wondering why Lee and Ian doing a podcast, well, we had so much success before in show business. We said, right,
there we go.
Yeah. And then we grew a little old.
This
and
is a little more serious.
Right.
Now.
We grew a little old. Our face, maybe our faces are now more cut out for radio.
That's
right?
true. That's true. So mine definitely is.
Yeah.
And my head.
Right, yeah, tell me about it. I have more hair growing in my nose now than on the top of my head. This is actually true. You know, I just can't believe it.
My wife is going to love this.
Yeah, the top of my ears. It's like I'll wake up. There's no hair on the top of my head, but my ears are covered.
There we go.
Yeah, so don't stare at me if you see me at the restaurant. You go, let me see your ears.
I guarantee you, my wife is hysterical laughing if she's listening to this right now.
Yes. It's hair everywhere except the top of my head. It's God's big joke. God's big joke. But so Ian, I guess from Soma to New Jersey to Essex County. We've got, I think we're going to have a lot to talk about.
We've got a lot to talk about.
Yeah, last week we talked about some of the gubernatorial candidates.
Yep. And we'll be talking more about them as we go forward.
Yeah, and we're going to have some special guests coming in over the forthcoming next few weeks and months. So I'm looking forward to more of the same. So I guess we'll say good afternoon.
That sounds good. Good afternoon.
Okay, everybody. Until we meet again, Lee and Ian on the air.
Thank you, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.